Becoming extremely angry begins with getting just a little bit angry, getting provoked and irritated, and wanting to have the last word in an exchange of words. And it's always a slippery slope from there. Anger has always been a deadly negative force. Frankly, I don't know that it ever serves any good purpose to be extremely angry. But I don't say this to judge anyone. After all, we're all vulnerable to it. I'm only saying this to make the observation that in both these true events that I am about to talk about, if the factor of anger had been absent, so much grief and suffering would have been averted. I think it always leaves in its wake devastation and sorrow. And in these two eerily similar true crime stories, the destructive power of anger reared its ugly head, resulting in tragic consequences that shook families to their core. The first story unfolds on a quiet night in Columbus, Ohio, in the United States, where the vibrant life of a young singer was abruptly cut short. Britney Boateng was a young and promising singer whose star was on the rise. She was of Ghanaian descent, but brought up and educated in the United States, where she lived with her parents. In an interview when she was still a teenager, she said her goal was to finish college and become a successful singer. And she was well on her way to achieving that. Ricky McElroy, a supervisor at the Buckeye Ranch who produced music for Britney Boateng, said she was just a sweet soul. Her talent was unbelievable, but just her care for people, her love for people was amazing. She recalled Britney's memorable performance of Hero by Mariah Carey at the Glenwood Recreation Center in front of Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther in 2016. Well, Britney continued her musical studies at Fort Hays, which hosts a special audio engineering program. She was really into music and she was very good at it, having started performing in church when she was only 8 years old. Now, at the time of this story, she was already independent and lived with her partner and their 2-year-old child. On the night of November 21st, 2022, at just 22 years old, Britney found herself embroiled in a fateful altercation with her 41-year-old sister-in-law, Tayona Dotson, who lived with them. The details of their dispute is not clearly known. It's lost to the dark abyss of that tragic night. But what is known is this: tempers fled, tensions escalated, and amidst the chaos, Tayona, Britney's own sister-in-law, went for a gun and deliberately fired at Britney. It's quite incredible. Now, when police arrived at the scene at 1 a.m. in the middle of the night, shortly after the gunshot was fired, they found Britney lying wounded, her life slipping away. And despite the efforts of paramedics, they could not save her. She died at the scene at 1:12 a.m. That is 12 past 1 a.m. Her life ended at the tender age of 22. Tayona Dotson, the once close family member, now stood accused of the ultimate betrayal, charged with the murder of her sister-in-law. Britney's untimely demise left behind a grieving family, shattered dreams, and a precious 2-year-old child robbed of a mother's love. Now, barely a year and some 3 months after Britney Boateng's tragic fate, Another chilling incident unfolded in the bustling streets of Chicago, a mere 350 miles away. Also involving a Ghanaian lady, 29 years old. This time, the stage was set for a fateful dinner date between this young woman and her fiancé called Quincy. It is said that there was some tension simmering beneath the surface of their relationship, and the couple sought solace in a heart-to-heart conversation over dinner. But things were to turn dark very quickly. As the evening wore on, the conversation took a sinister turn, culminating in a violent altercation on the highway. Now, in a moment of unfathomable rage, or some claim that it was at the culmination of a well-calculated plan, who knows, Quincy pushed this woman, his own girlfriend, into the path of an oncoming vehicle, sealing her fate in a tragic collision. Now the driver of the vehicle, caught in the chaos of the moment, is said to have fled the scene in a panic, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable horror. Now his vehicle is said to have run over the beautiful young lady. He went into hiding for a bit. He even tried washing his car and clearing the evidence of the collision from his car. He must have been very afraid, of course. But he eventually turned himself into police. After all, the collision didn't appear to be his fault. And there was very little he probably could have done about it. Now, Quincy, who had caused this tragedy, did not call the police when it happened. Instead, he got into his car and sped off from the scene. Was it an accident? Had he been blinded by rage and thoughtlessly pushed his girlfriend into mortal danger? Or was there something he had actually intended and purposefully carried out? Well, anyhow, Quincy's attempt to evade justice, evade the law, was short-lived, as he and his mother were later apprehended by law enforcement. The arrests marked the beginning of a long and harrowing journey through the justice system, a journey paved with sorrow, regret, and the painful realization of irreversible consequences. What makes these two tales all the more chilling is not just the striking similarities in the circumstances of their demise, that is, an altercation with someone close, a sudden eruption of violence, and also the uncanny coincidence of their shared heritage, but something even deeper and more intimate. Yes, they both were Ghanaian by descent, and in both cases their lives were tragically cut short by people they trusted most. But beyond and above all of that, both victims, strangely, also shared the same name. They were both called Britney Boateng. Now, in the wake of such profound tragedy, one is left to wonder, what forces conspired to bring about such eerie parallels? Was it merely coincidence, or is there something more sinister at play? Some say that it is, of course, just simple coincidence. I tend to believe that, although I don't know all that much about the intricacies of life. But there are others that read more meanings into it and who suspect that when we say it's coincidence, it is only because our perception is superficial. To me, they look like two very sad, unrelated events, But I'll also be the first to admit that there is a lot that I do not know. But regardless of the answer, the profound loss and sorrow that lingered in the aftermath of these tragedies, that still linger in the aftermath of these tragedies, serve as a sobering reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating consequences of unchecked anger. And it is true that as these two families and communities grappled with the weight of their grief, they were left to mourn the loss of two bright souls whose lives were extinguished far too soon. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video.